James Shaw. My maternal grandfather. For a few hours he hiked without haste, letting his gaze drift over the landscape, the rock-strewn barren immensity of its open space. Untroubled, vaguely content, his mind having emptied itself of his usual day-to-day concerns, Evans pressed on toward a distant ridge from where he hoped to gain an expansive and sweeping view of the terrain. But soon he took note of the dark gray clouds which had been amassing far overhead. He had hoped to avoid a flash rainstorm, though now it seemed he might receive a drenching after all. The ground began to rise at a steeper incline, and he shortly came upon an opening to a cave. Oh, what extraordinary good luck, he thought, stepping just inside the mouth of the cave as the first heavy raindrops began to pelt the ground. He gazed into the distance in the direction from which he'd come, the ramparts of the city no longer visible, now lost in the brownish red haze. Evans felt a strange sense of dislocation, of having altogether removed himself from the human world. As the rain increased its tempo, Evans resigned himself for a wait which could last as long as several hours. He considered venturing further into the cave. Among the gear he brought along was a flashlight, but something exceptionally uninviting about the cave, a smell he'd never before encountered either in the courtyard or the park or even one of the many construction sites he'd worked at over the years. This smell alone produced within him a certain reluctance to do so. Before long he heard massive claps of thunder and felt their deep rumbling vibrations in his chest and beneath his feet. Bolts of lightning lit up the cloud-darkened sky, some darting jaggedly down to the ground in the distance. In another moment he couldn't believe his eyes as a pair of animals ran up the slope directly below him, then flew right past him and disappeared into the interior of the cave. He staggered backward, his backpack now pressing against the mouth of the cave, astonished and terrified. His first impulse was to flee down the slopes and put as much distance as possible between himself and the cave. Yet he would be insane to expose himself to a lightning strike. As his breathing slowed, he realized that the animals had not returned to attack him. They were perhaps just as fearful of the lightning as he was. Very soon he realized what Lydia had really seen all those years ago, and what he had just witnessed race past him a moment ago. They weren't wild dogs, they were wolves. Over the course of more than 500 years, they'd learned how to survive under the harshest conditions of the natural world. Evans could only guess, but as those conditions worsened over time, and in the complete absence of human beings, the wolves had discovered new sources of food and, most importantly, ways to conserve that food. But he also knew full well that they had not forgotten their old ways, and he quickly shrugged off his backpack and began to run down the steep slope toward the distant city.